But somebody was asking me what was the most surprising and exciting thing for me at the Game Awards. For me, it was this. When I first saw this, I saw like the little creatures walking. I was like, oh, no way. Because I mean, we had speculated maybe this was going to happen. We were saying, oh, it's possible. And then I saw the guy writing, I am a Stegosaurus. And then the big monsters. And I'm like, oh, no way. And they all look like they're running from something, right? They're all running. I was like, that's a big monster. Maybe we'll have to hunt it. And then the clouds come in. And then they showed traversal with a mount that can also fly. What? Capcom? Monster Hunter Wilds. Man. So I'm very excited. Now it's still a year and a half away, most likely. Maybe early 2025. So maybe just a little over a year, fingers crossed. But I think there's a reason this was like their big final announcement. Monster Hunter World was a massively successful game, and it's what got me into the franchise. And shout out to my buddy Corey, because Corey has played Monster Hunter games since like way back in the way. By the way, Major Dookie Juice, thank you for resubbing with Prime. I don't think I missed it. I saw it. Thank you, my friend. He had played all of them going back to like the GameCube. And back in the day, apparently Monster Hunter was like pretty dang hardcore. So like if you played Monster Hunter World, you know that you have these big swords and stuff, and you use these to hunt monsters. Shocker, right? But they need to be sharpened as you do the hunt. The hunt can be like 30, 45, 50 minutes long, hunting one big beast as it gets injured and runs and flies away. Then you go trace it down. It's really, really cool. But your weapon gets blunted, so you have to sharpen it, and you do that with a whetstone. In Monster Hunter World, you just use a whetstone. Like you just have it. It's an action you perform. You select it on the radial wheel, and you're good. Apparently, back in the day with Monster Hunter games, like with the OG ones, you had to like go to riverbeds and find a whetstone, or maybe like craft it, and they would break constantly and lose effectiveness. And then you'd have to go, and every little bitty thing involved with hunting these creatures was like micromanaged. So it was very much a simulation game, but it was a game where like the people who played it, almost all of them, but the average playtime was probably like 2,000 hours. If you played Monster Hunter, that was your thing, because you had to like be an expert. But the level of detail that you can get to is crazy with some of these builds, because there's just a ton. Like you can see there are whole like spreadsheets and stuff people use to calculate out max damage and things, where they can figure out like what the possible min-maxed version of a certain armor set is, or a certain damage type, because all of these different enemies and monsters have different move sets and different resistances and stuff. So like this one is,
hello everyone, Mimikins here.
Let's see, from Yonda Bear Gaming. Dual high blade, high DPS, stay sharp, 100% affinity, 5.0 DB mixed set behemoth armors. So like the level of effort people go to min-maxing these builds is just crazy. And this is super intimidating, which is why shout out to my buddy Corey. He helped me like get into this and walk me through it, because he had played it when it was really hardcore. This is considered extremely dumbed down for OG Monster Hunter fans. So I got into it, and I still to this day, when I'm feeling blue and I just want to do something that's relaxing, I go murder some monsters. And ooh baby, it's a good time. So if you have not played Monster Hunter World, I encourage you to try it. It is a very good time, and maybe you will become an addict like me, and when we get Monster Hunter Wilds, you'll be all the more excited. As for what we can take away from this trailer, honestly, not very much. It's not like they show very much. Like they show a monster, Radagon or whatever it is, A bunch of little grunts, a big open area. There's not much to take from this other than the mount allows you to run around and fly and stuff, which is cool. My question is like, is this actually an open world Monster Hunter now? Because previously it's like you go to the Coral Highlands and that's its own little map. And then over here we have the forest and that's its own map. And so you can go to different maps, but they're not just one big world. People have been wondering if this next game is going to be an actual open world, like an actual world with a huge map and multiple biomes for you to go to. And when you want to go back to base, you actually have to physically travel there. And that's where you can do all of your maintenance stuff. And then you go back out to hunt and set up bases and stuff out there. I think it could be really, really cool and interesting to see. But as for whether that's what they're doing here, we just don't know yet. Like they'll have certain areas like this where you can see this is kind of like the world map, parent map, whatever. And then within that map, you go to an individual area and it's big like this. Like there's big-ish areas, but like it's not that huge. It's multi-leveled, so it's really vertical, but there's not a ton there. The worlds are dense, but you basically have like the ancient forest. Astera is kind of like home base, and then the Wildspire Waste research base is actually home base. Ignore me. Rotten Vale, Coral Highlands, Elder's Recess, and like those are the main areas. But people have been wondering, okay, well, just get rid of these individual icons. Just give us that. Give us the whole map to explore without any limitations on loading to a new area or anything like that. It would require a lot more redesign because they'd have to then go and like, okay, how do missions work now? Because right now it's like you have 45 minutes or you have 50 minutes to complete this hunt on time. Otherwise you fail. And so how is that going to work? Do they still give you those time restrictions or do they open it up? You know? Yeah, fortunately, the newer version's a lot more streamlined. Yeah, and I think that's the difference. People hear streamlined and they hear like, oh, it's been dumbed down. I don't think that's what it is. It doesn't have to be, at least. Streamlining is just like simplifying the steps as far as I can tell. Like, you know what I'm going to do. You know what I'm going to do. I have to. So if the OG version of Monster Hunter was like this, and let's just say this is like the process of fighting a monster. Okay, so like right here you find the monster and then you go and you start attacking the monster and then the monster runs off. So now it can diverge where like I actually now have to go and I have to sharpen this weapon, and in order to sharpen the weapon I have to go and find a whetstone in a riverbed, and then I have to go do this over here because I have to find like the right type of handle for the weapon to repair it. Like, I'm not saying that this was in the game, but I'm just saying like if it's really complicated, there's all of these steps that are very complicated for you to do it. Like I was talking to, again, my buddy Corey, he's playing classic WoW right now, and he got that otter mount, which apparently is like extremely hard to do. He has this thing. In order to do it, let's see, you have to get the aquatic shades in order to get the next part of the secret. The toy is guaranteed drop from the immaculate sack of swag treasures, the best bag purchased from the great swag by a cave in the southeastern portion of the plains. The immaculate sack of swag treasure costs 1 gold coin, which can be very rarely fished or exchanged for 5 silver coin of the isles, which can be exchanged for 15 copper coins. So to obtain 1 gold coin, you have to get 75 copper coins. So he had to go fishing and get all those coins, and then he had to go and trade for that bag, which gives you the shades, which you then need to go and complete a puzzle. You go with those shades and then you go to the walking shores, you find a mat and stand on it. Then you need to start dancing to get a debuff, dance till you're dead, which is like a 5-minute process. You have to stand there and dance for like 5 minutes before you get it. Then once the debuff expires after 5 minutes, you'll pass out and wake up by the hissing grotto in the waking shores, next to a barrel. Interact with it to loot the empty fish barrel. And then you go, and once you have the barrel, it's time to fish. You'll be able to fill the barrel once you fish with the following fish. You need to fish the required fish in order to follow in the following order below, and interact with your empty fish barrel once you complete each step. So you have to get 100 frigid flow fish, 25 calamitous carp, and 1 kingfin wise whisker fish. Jesus. And once you obtain all of that, you return to the hissing grotto, And then you leave the overflowing fishing barrel where you first found it. Once you found it, auto will show up, give you a quick quest to obtain the mount. And then you get the mount. That's what you have to do to get this one item in the game. Insane. But he did all of that. So you can tell he's okay with grinding if he needs to. But like, that's the steps that it used to be for Monster Hunter if you wanted to do all of this crazy stuff. If you wanted to collect all of this madness, you had to go through all of these steps to get there. And then all of that's going to lead you after even more steps as you go along, trying to complete the objectives to get this one thing. You arrive at the objective. What like Monster Hunter World did is that they went and they're like, okay, so you're hunting it, and then, you know, you chase it down, and then maybe you have to sharpen your weapon, and then you find it again, and then you start attacking it again, and then it flies off again, and then he's asleep, so then you attack it again, and then you maybe put down some barrels, blow it up, and then you kill it and carve it, and then boom, you've completed the quest. Love it. People might look at this and be like, oh, so this is way worse now. Like, this used to be way more complex and way more satisfying. But I don't look at it that way. Like, I look at all this and I'm like, this seems insane. This seems like crazy. Maybe you have time to do it. I look at that and I just shut down. Like, I'm like, okay. Because a lot of you probably heard me describing all that crap with this damn otter, and you're like, no thanks, dude. No thanks. I'm good. I don't need that otter that much. And that's, I think, where a lot of people are. They hear these barriers to entry or access, and they're like, honestly, I'm okay. Yeah, crooked vulture. All that for an otter? No thanks. Apparently, he is like the best mount in the game because he can go between water and running and stuff seamlessly, I guess, but I don't really understand it. But with all this, like, you might hear that and shut down. And that's what a lot of people did with Monster Hunter when it was this complicated. They just shut down. So what Monster Hunter World did is they streamlined it, took out a lot of these elements over here that they thought were not necessary to the gameplay loop, that perhaps overcomplicated it, made it not that fun, were just tedious for the sake of tedium, and they cut all those steps out. And so then you're left with a straight line that's much more streamlined. And for some people, they hear that and they shut down. They're like, I don't want to do it. But for other people, it means it's much more accessible and they can get into the game finally. And that's where I was. I was never going to play this version of Monster Hunter because that's just too much for me to be able to justify the headaches. I'm one of those players. That level of grind is not that satisfying to me. I know some people get a huge dopamine payoff when they complete something really complicated like the otter. But for me, I don't get enough dopamine to justify all of this crap that you have to do to obtain it. He was grinding for like dozens of hours to get this one thing. And for me, I just don't, it doesn't do that for me. Like, I don't get that much of a happy payoff. But this, I'm much more about. I can live with this. This is like, okay, I did it for an hour. I grinded-ish for an hour to complete the objective, and then I did it, and now I'm happy. I got the pelt I needed, or I got the plate I needed for my armor. I'm good. Some people don't work that way, and that's okay. Maybe it's just because I have ADHD brain or something, and I can't focus that long. I don't know what it is, but I don't think it's bad for streamlining to occur, personally. I see it as like a way of opening a bigger door for more people to get inside. Some people are like, yeah, no, you let more people in, now it's not as special. And I can understand that, especially if you're like an OG fan and then they streamlined it so it's not like you're not that special anymore. It's the same thing with like if they were to make From Software games. Well, they kind of did this with Elden Ring, right? Where the game's previously super, super difficult, and then they allow summons. They created this summon system where you can bring in summons to help you fight the boss. And a lot of hardcore From Software fans were like, no, those are cheating. It's like, bro, they put it in their game. Hidetaka Miyazaki put this in the game. The guy that designed the game you love put it in there as a core mechanic. And you're saying it's cheating? How does that make any damn sense at all? It doesn't. That's the answer. But it was like they had taken something that made them special and then made it easier to access for everybody. And so they didn't like it. It's, you know, it's like, oh, well, I'm not as special anymore. You know? He took my thing. Red flag, red flag.
details.